What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for April 4th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Feel Good Friday edition of the podcast. A rainy morning, Feel Good Friday, but it's supposed to clear up later. Going to kind of be a dreary weekend, but that's all right because we have a ton of great sports coming up this weekend. We got a big show today, too. It's Fridays with AI. We shift gears with Lenny Wagner, start talking football, Phillies, Dodgers, so much to get into. But as always, let's start with some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as this thing is growing like wildfire. And just a quick reminder as well, don't forget, if you want to see highlights, clips, photos, pictures of whatever we're talking about for this day in Philly sports history that day, go to my social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. That's where you'll see that. So if you want to see what happened, whatever it is, that's where you go for that. So go ahead, follow me on the social media, and then you'll be right there in the loop. All right. That's right. It's time for Fridays with AI. And we got a kind of a different one today. I'm experimenting with different things. AI has been talking to me about different things and wanting to try new ideas. So the Final Four is this weekend, tomorrow, and then the championship game is on Monday. And we've talked a lot, specifically with the Big Five, about how the landscape of college sports, specifically basketball, has really changed. I mean, you have 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four for the first time since 2008, only the second time ever. Really, these 4 teams have been the best 4 teams all year, and a lot of that can be targeted right back to NIL and the transfer portal and all of those things. And as somebody who grew up with college basketball looking slightly different and being a Temple fan and knowing John Chaney, I always wondered what he would think about the current state of college sports, specifically basketball. So I asked AI to simulate an interview with John Chaney where he talks just about that, the NIL and the transfer portal. Now, due to copyright, moral, and ethical things, I was not able to get like a hologram John Chaney to sit down for this interview. However, AI had the next best thing. They asked 2 friends to take a deep dive into John Chaney's interview with, I'm assuming, like Clark Kellogg, the Saturday of the Final Four, whatever. But Chaney did sit down. If you would be interested in the transcript of it, I do have the transcript. But here are 2 of my friends to take a deep dive into what John Chaney would think about the NIL and transfer portals.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something big in college hoops. Name, image, and likeness, basically. Players getting paid for endorsements and also, all these player transfers.
Right. It's really shifting the landscape.
Exactly. And we're going to explore this using insights from a simulated interview with the late, great coach John Chaney, sort of like getting his take from beyond.
It's a really interesting way to frame it, using his, simulated traditional perspective to look at these very modern changes.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward. Give you a quick, clear sense of the good, the bad, the opportunities, and maybe the challenges that come with NIL and all this player movement. How does it stack up against, the old school values?
It's definitely a clash of eras in a way. Trying to understand how someone like Chaney, who valued discipline and long-term commitment so much, would process players earning potentially big money or switching teams easily.
Okay, so let's jump into NIL first. The simulated Chaney, he gets it. Times change. Players have new rights, new freedoms. That makes sense. But his big worry right off the bat isn't the money itself. It's, will this distract from the grind, the hard work?
Yeah.
He seems concerned it could become like a shortcut.
Yeah, exactly. His simulated take really hammers on that. Is the focus shifting too much away from, fundamental skill development, team goals, and even academics, the core reasons you're supposed to be in college? He seems to be asking, can players handle both? the financial opportunity and the demands of being a student and an athlete committed to a team. It's a balance thing.
Right. A tricky balance.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the transfers? The portal's buzzing constantly these days. How does the simulated Chinese see that?
Well, it seems he views it, let's say, less favorably, more through that traditional lens. He connects it to maybe a decline in loyalty, in perseverance, sticking it out when things get tough.
So less sticking with the team, building something together over years.
Precisely. The simulated perspective acknowledges, yeah, maybe a transfer is genuinely better for some players seeking a different fit or more playing time, but the worry is this broader culture it creates.
A culture of what? Always looking for the next best thing.
Kind of, yeah. Always seeking greener pastures, maybe. Instead of digging in, working through adversity within the team you committed to, it potentially weakens that team bond, that shared struggle he valued.
And he saw that struggle, that adversity, as key preparation for life, didn't he?
Absolutely. That's a huge part of his simulated viewpoint. College basketball, for him, wasn't just about hoops. It was about learning discipline, teamwork, how to handle setbacks, life lessons.
So the concern is, if you can just jump ship easily whenever things aren't perfect.
Do you ever really learn that resilience, that grit? If the focus becomes solely chasing the best deal or the easiest path, maybe you miss out on developing that mental toughness you need for, everything after basketball.
Makes sense. So given all these concerns, NIL distractions, transfer temptations, what's the simulated Coach Chaney's advice for today's young players?
It boils down to staying grounded, really. Focus on the fundamentals, your skills, yes, but also your education, your character. Don't lose sight of the long game.
So weigh the opportunities carefully.
Exactly. Think about that NIL deal or that transfer offer. Does it really align with your bigger goals, your education, being part of a committed team? His core message, simulated, of course, seems to be hard work, discipline, perseverance. Those are still your most valuable assets. No shortcut replaces that.
Okay, so wrapping this up for our listeners, what we're getting from this simulated Chaney perspective is this picture of modern college basketball as complicated.
Definitely. You've got these new freedoms, financial opportunities with NIL, mobility through transfers. Those are real benefits for players in many ways.
But the counterpoint, the caution from this simulated traditional view is about potentially losing focus. Losing focus on education, on character building, on the teamwork and grit that, someone like Coach Chaney saw as absolutely foundational.
Right. Which leads us to that final thought, that provocative question for you, the listener, to chew on. As college sports keep changing with all this money and movement, how do we, the athletes, the families, the schools, everyone involved, make sure we don't lose the plot? How do we keep the educational value, the personal development front and center alongside these new opportunities? It's a really important questioner for the future.
All right. Thanks, guys. AI is amazing. It's amazing what AI can do. Simply load it up the transcript of that interview, and that's what they came up with. But I think it really is spot on with how Chaney would feel. If you think about it, Chaney was all about loyalty. Chaney was about helping guys learn life lessons and be productive members. Sure, the NBA and making millions like that was always great. He sent plenty of guys to the NBA. But every single former player, always will talk about just Chaney being that father figure, teaching them life lessons on how to be good human beings. And I think he would be torn. I don't know if somebody like Chaney would be able to coach in this current landscape. I think he would get frustrated. We saw that with Aaron McKee, who basically one of the reasons he left was due to the changing landscape and not being able to build any consistency. I look back at my 4 years when I was at Temple, and the 99-2000 team that was the 2 seed, granted, they got bounced in the second round, but you saw the growth with guys like Lamont Barnes, guys like Quincy Wadley, Lynn Greer, Pepe Sanchez. You saw their growth throughout their time at Temple. I don't know if you would ever see that nowadays at a school, specifically like a school like Temple, because I just read in the newspaper today that basically Adam Fisher is starting from scratch with his team at Temple. It's because guys are leaving for the transfer portal. Temple now has moved all the NIL stuff in-house. So Chaney definitely would be outspoken. And truthfully, AI, I think of all the ones we've done so far, AI got this right, because I really do feel this is what Chaney would feel. He'd be very outspoken. He would question the motives, question whether it was good for the players themselves. So thank you, AI, and thank you, Coach Chaney, because I think he would feel this way and be concerned about the impact it's having on these young guys, especially for a guy like Chaney, who was all about making his players be great human beings. Basketball was sort of the vehicle to get them there. So again, the whole Fridays with AI, it's a work in progress, working out some things. There are some subscription services. I just don't trust AI subscriptions yet. But thank you for Fridays with AI. All right, let's go to the Phils. And what a game yesterday. And raise your hand if you thought Taijuan Walker would go 6 innings, give up 3 hits, strike out 4, and give up 0 runs. Yep, I didn't think so either. And again, don't want to jump and put the cart before the horse here. But if you can get that type of production out of him, and if Ranger comes back and you're getting this production out of Taijuan Walker, do you move Taijuan or Ranger to the bullpen and let Taijuan be your 5th starter? I mean, for the most part, other than those last 2 starts, he had a phenomenal spring. And the way he pitched yesterday was the way he pitched in the spring. I know it was the Rockies, but he looked good. His command was good. And some of the trouble he got into yesterday were due to either bloop hits or the defense letting him down. So good, solid outing from Taijuan Walker. Phils win 3-1. They did okay against starting pitching yesterday, so that was good to see. Kyle Schwarber hit a bomb that probably still hasn't landed. If you haven't seen his Schwarber bomb yesterday, he crushed it. Bryce had 2 hits. JT went 3 for 3. Jose Alvarado did make it interesting in the 9th, kind of Mitch Williams-esque there. He loaded the bases, gave up a run, but did strike out 3 and got out of it. All right, so Dodgers coming to town this weekend, starting tonight for a 3-game series. Dodgers are undefeated. Phillies are 5-1. And yes, it was against the Nationals and the Rockies. However, we've seen so many times with sports teams in Philadelphia, for some reason, not handling their business the way they should. The Phillies handled their business, winning 5 of 6 from those 2 teams to start the season. So I think they're playing decent baseball. I'm excited for this series. I think it's a good measuring stick game. Yes, it's only the 9th game of the season, or the 7th, 8th, and 9th games of the season. But I think this is going to go a long way in sort of letting us know how this season is going to play out. It's April. They say you can't win the division or clinch a playoff spot in April. But as we've seen in the past, you certainly can lose it. So this is a heavyweight fight, really, to see where the Phillies match up. So that does lead to today's question of the day. How many games do the Phillies need to win this weekend in order for you to feel good about the team? Because I think right now everybody is still cautiously optimistic. You might even use the word skeptical, because I know I am. I'm like, okay, you're 5-1 against the Nationals and Rockies. You didn't do hardly anything against the starting pitching. So here's the best team in the league, hands down. I want to see how they go. I think they can't get swept. If they win 2 of 3, I am 100% on board. And a lot, obviously, is going to be how the games play out. If they come out and just play like crap and don't, like they did against the Mets, then, okay, like we know what kind of season it's going to be. But they come out and go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers and hold their own, I'm okay with it. So how many games do the Phillies need to win this weekend for you to become a believer in this team? 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest? Want to talk Chaney's thoughts on NIL and the transfer portal? That is all fair game. But, I'm basically going into this saying don't get swept. and play well if you're going to lose 2 of 3. Like if they lose 5-4, 3-2, things like that, I would be okay with that, especially if the starting pitching is good. I want to see Aaron Nola bounce back tomorrow. Luzardo is on the mound tonight. Like I said, I want to see Sanchez pitch well at home again on Sunday. I mean, it's a heavyweight fight. So let me know how many you think they need to win in order for you to be a believer, or if you're not going to believe because it's the third series of the season. But basically, bottom line is in baseball, win series. The Phillies have won 2 series to start the season. Love for them to go out there tonight and win the third. So that's today's question of the day. Let's recap yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, in light of the news that Joel Embiid is having yet another knee surgery, will he ever play for the Sixers again? 64% of you said no. And a lot of people were back and forth and torn. We had once again, if you're not on Facebook or even hitting me up on Twitter to start these discussions, great Facebook discussion yesterday on this, because I think everybody's mood was pretty much the same, and I think it's one of frustration. But you had a lot of people saying, unfortunately, no, because of the business side of it. They'll find a way that it's mutually agreeable to both of them to kind of cut ties. You had other people saying, unfortunately, no, because of the ownership group and them wanting to kind of milk it for all it's worth. But I guess my question with the money and Joe being a draw is Joel Embiid a draw anymore? I mean, granted, he could come back, and I don't think we're ever going to see the MVP Joel Embiid. But could he be a guy that's a key piece, a contributor, maybe 20, 25 minutes a game? Doesn't have to be the focal point of the offense? Sure, but is that going to bring people into the building just on that alone? So lots of question marks heading into this Sixers offseason. There was a game yesterday, and they did their part. They did lose 126-113. Of course, Glenn Rivers did make it closer than what it had to be. The Bucks should have blown the Sixers out, but they were hanging around. They were down like 6 or 7 midway through the fourth quarter. Started to get a little worried that Doc was going to dock, but the Bucks did pull it out. Adem Bonham had 28. Good to see his development. And if there's any silver lining in any of this, it is the fact that these young guys are getting to play, getting the experience, and hopefully once the starters are able to come back, whoever they might be next year, that should go a long way in helping the development of this team. We'll do our lottery tracker. Still 2 games up on the Nets for that 5th spot with 5 left to play. Only a game and a half back now of the Pelicans, who are in action tonight. I believe they play Sacramento. So a game they could win. So it's going to be tight down to the wire, but Sixers doing what they need to do. Be sure to check out my friends over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Lots of great things going on with their sports fan network. Go to clashingconferences.com to see what they're all about, see how you can get involved, and have a little bit of fun with them. Their podcasts are all available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. But that's clashingconferences.com. Steven and the crew over there are doing a great job. And then, of course, Philly Goat. Gear up for this Phillies-Dodgers series. Get your Fanatic gear. They have Phillies gear. I've been talking about the Double Bogey Down golf shirts, their partnership with them. So much going on. Tush Push may get banned. Probably is going to get banned. Get the Tecmo Bowl shirt. I'm going to order that probably next week. But go to Philly Goat. Be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, today we're going to go back to 2003. And on this day in 2003, the Phillies lost to the Pirates 9-1 in the final home opener ever at Veterans Stadium. Pirates scored 5 in the first, including a grand slam. And then the Phillies managed only 3 hits on the day. Bobby Abreu, David Bell, and a triple by Jim Thome. The teams, though, got into the celebration and the pomp and circumstance. They wore their 1971 throwback jerseys which was not common back in 2003. Now the powder blues are a staple on Thursdays at Citizens Bank Park, but back then there wasn't as it was a special thing to see them wear throwback jerseys this day. Jim Bunning came out throughout the first pitch. They honored the 1971 team, that first team that played at the Vet. Not a very good team, I might add. Tug McGraw's sons came out and delivered the ball for the first pitch. He had just been recently recovering from his brain surgery due to his brain cancer. There's almost 60,000 people in the Vet that day. That's insane. Usually you see that for Eagles. Never really saw 60,000 for Phillies games. But in the final home opener at the Vet, they pulled the numbers down. The countdown, if you remember that season, each game they counted down toward the opening of Citizens Bank Park. But the Phillies got blasted by the Pirates on this day, 9-1 in the final home opener at Veterans Stadium. All right, finally today, we're going to pick up our interview with Lenny Wagner. It was great sitting down with him. He's the author of Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Age of Sports, the story of Walter French, and just this dude's life was just amazing. We spent most of this week talking about his A's career, and that makes a great story. That probably would have been enough to write a compelling book about, especially with the historical pieces woven into there. But while all that was going on, Walter French was also playing pro football in the early days of pro football. So here, Lenny talks a little bit about how Walter got involved with playing pro football and a little bit of history of pro football.
So in 1923, at the end of the minor league season, he played in Williamsport. He played football in some independent professional leagues in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. He played, and they wouldn't necessarily sign with a team for the year. They'd sign for a couple of weeks. So for a couple of weeks he played for the Wilkes-Barre Panthers, and then for a couple of weeks he played for the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, which eventually in 1923 was the Yellow Jackets' last year as an independent team. They joined the NFL in 1924, but he played a bunch of games for them in that season. Played in the Gilberton. He played for the Gilberton Catamounts, where he teamed up with Fritz Pollard, who was the first Black All-American. Fritz had been a big star at Brown, and he was on the team with Walter at Gilberton, and they won a couple of games together. They had two All-Americans. And Walter had been an All-American football player at West Point. In 1920, he was named on a number of the first team All-Americans, and Walter Camp he was second team All-American. So he had a good reputation as a football player. And at the conclusion of the 1925 season, a guy named Charlie Berry, who was one of the backup catchers for the Athletics and had been an All-American football player at Lafayette, talked to Walter about joining him on the Pottsville Maroons in the National Football League. So, in those days, the NFL, the teams weren't all, there was a couple of big market teams. So Chicago had two teams, the Bears and the Cardinals, and the Giants in New York. But most of the other teams in the NFL were from small markets. The Canton Bulldogs, the Rochester Jeffersons, the Pottsville Maroons, the Green Bay Packers. The only one of those to survive.
I love stuff like that. The stories of like the small market towns, like the Packers, and really just catching on, and just how the NFL, if you look at where the NFL is today compared to how it started, it's just amazing that we're here based on those starts. And as Lenny says, college was the name of the game. Like, it was perceived as the far superior product, and the NFL was just kind of, all right, we'll see where this ends up going. And like I said, though, this book is incredible. It's so much more than a biography on Walter French. You get the history lessons of the NFL. You get the history and kind of evolution we talked about of Major League Baseball, how it went from being like small ball, not really hitting home runs, to Babe Ruth coming out and just completely changing the game. So the book is titled Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Age of Sports. It's the story of Walter French. It's available wherever you get your books. If you're an audiobook listener like I am, it's also available on audio. April 8th, Lenny will be at the Mount Laurel Historical Society doing a presentation and a book signing. I'll be there. If you're going, hit me up. But we will pick up more with Walter French's NFL career tomorrow. But thank you, Lenny, for sitting down with us and giving it to me. This is the kind of stuff, this is why I have this podcast. This is stuff that's very interesting to me, the early days of things and just how much the game has changed over the years. And the fact that you had guys like these semi-pro teams almost where they were pros, but it wasn't the quote-unquote NFL. Just to me, like I really enjoy and get into that. On this day in 2003, Phillies lost the final home opener at Veterans Stadium 9-1 to the Pirates. Lots of pomp and circumstances there was throughout that entire season. Jim Bunning, Tug McGraw's sons, the throwback jerseys. Just a fun day minus the whole game. We'll have more on the game one of the Phillies-Dodgers. But how many do they need to win for you to feel good about this team? That is the question of the day. Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line with that. We spent Fridays with AI, took a deep dive into what John Chaney would think about NIL and the transfer portal. Be sure to give me your feedback on that. Do you agree with AI? Do you think that's how Chaney would feel? Or do you think Chaney may have adapted with the times and embraced it? You never know. I mean, he coached, 20 years ago was the last time he coached. If he was still alive and coaching, would he have a different view than what AI thinks? So let me know about that as we continue to tweak and play and mess around with AI. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for April 4th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday. Go Phils. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.